are a full-power academic fertility center as well as a clinical center dedicated to personal patient care. But don't ever forget the fact that we are a think tank, we're innovators, and we've developed almost all of the procedures nowadays, modern techniques used for infertility treatment and for IVF. I'd like to just show you some of the academic books we've published. Published 11 books translated into 5 different languages. I'll tell you for a second just about what we've done. First of all, the books in different languages. We've translated the books into German. It's been published in Germany. Been published in Spain and South America in Spanish. Even books on male reproduction have been published in Spanish. You can see an interesting take on the cover. Been published in Russian, sold out completely in Russia, massive buying power. And then even in China, it's the most popular book on infertility treatment and IVF in China as well. So we are recognized around the world for all of our innovation and all of our academic work in infertility. The very first book was How to Get Pregnant, published in 1979 by Scribner's. And this is a book with a funny title to make a spoof of the how-to books, but it's highly technical and written in language that the layman can understand. So that was How to Get Pregnant, our first book in 1979. And then it was published in paperback, so it reached a huge audience, selling over 400,000 copies. It was a bestseller on the New York Times bestseller list. And then it was published again in paperback in England, a separate publishing house, and published the book on the male, how the male works and the male function was published in England as well as America. And I talked about the male from infancy to old age, everything about male reproduction. Then finally, when IVF came around, and we were one of the early developers of it, I published How to Get Pregnant with a New Technology. No one thought of IVF as being for the common case of infertility, but we popularized it, realizing back in 1980s that this would be the major and dominant treatment for most cases of infertility. And then we republished How to Get Pregnant, but with all the new technology, emphasizing all the work with IVF. We were the first to develop ICSI in the United States, which meant we totally solved male infertility because we could inject the sperm into the egg. And we developed that in Belgium with our Belgian colleagues, but we were the first to actually bring that to the United States. No one else was able to do that. And that was in this newer version of How to Get Pregnant that we published later, just more recently. We even published a book on contraception so that women would know how not to get pregnant. Women who were fertile maybe didn't want more children. So we wrote the definitive book on contraception. Now, about medical textbooks, we wrote the definitive book on male infertility, Fundamentals of Male Infertility, just published a few years ago. And this has everything that modern doctors need to know about male infertility, and it's a textbook, very technical, not for the layman, though some laymen might enjoy reading it. Years ago, the first book I ever published as a textbook was on prostatectomy. How to actually, this was the major textbooks that all urology residents used as the basis of learning how to do what is a very difficult operation, transurethral prostatectomy. I developed microsurgery. I was the first one to do that in the United States, and I published a massive textbook on microsurgery for all aspects of surgery, whether it was neurosurgery or plastic and reconstructive surgery or infertility surgery or any kind of microvascular surgery. This was the Bible that everybody used as a medical textbook. And then several years later, I wrote Microsurgery simply for reproductive tract, for making people fertile, for making them no longer sterile, for making them no longer impotent. And this was a book that specialized in microsurgery, a textbook for microsurgery for reproduction. So we are a major academic center. We've published over 250 scientific papers, peer-reviewed, and as I say, 11 books translated into 5 different languages. So just because we are a clinical center devoted to personal patient care, don't forget the fact that we are also the leading academic center probably in the world for infertility and reproductive treatment. So this is Dr. Sherman Silber from the Silber Infertility Center in St. Louis.